What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and shame that this had to be my first review back because, yeah, it was frustrating to watch. Don't know what it is about Texas, but apparently there's some sort of curse that gets put on us whenever we go there, and we just play like absolute crap for most of the game. Whatever the case, though, happy 4th of July. It has been quite a while. For those of you that, I think I may have talked about this when I had my little thing about my channel. I was in DC for the past week, and we were there the whole time, and didn't really get a chance to do any sort of reviewing of anything. I did get to see both of the games before this one. The first one, though, I was watching actually in Yankee Stadium because since we were in DC, we were like, what MLS games are close? And New York City was playing that weekend, so we're like, let's drive up there. So we went to watch their game against Toronto, and while it was going on, of course, we were playing Portland. And so I had to watch it on my phone, so it was kind of like looking down to see what's going on, looking up whenever something's going on in the field. So, but I did get to see most of that. Quick review of that one was just kind of similar to today, where I can't really pick out individuals that did well or did poor because everybody had their moments where they did something good, and then everybody had their moments where they did something bad. And ultimately, 1-1 draw was not. It wasn't a good performance overall. It was not a good team performance. We were a bit slower. It felt like we didn't have a whole lot of ideas. And then we come into the next game after losing Nagby. And of course, it's kind of a question of what's going to happen now. He's probably one of our best midfielders. But made some changes. Gressel slides in the midfield. Tito goes back out. We go to the 4-2-3-1. Still not a big fan of the formation, but it worked okay in that game because Orlando's not really playing well right now. I thought we played very well. We pretty much took them to the sword. We made sure to put our chances away. We didn't let them, they had a few chances at the end of the first half, but we came out strong in the second half and really took the game to them and made them pay for all of their missed chances in the first half. So it was a good game. It was a good, solid win as well over our, I guess, area rivals, just because they're so close. Our vicinity rivals, I guess is another way to put it. But whatever the case, that was a great game, 4-0 win, great to watch, a lot of fun. And then we come into this game, and it's away from home, but we've been looking very solid away from home. And I'm watching, and they're talking about the heat and all that stuff, and all I'm thinking is, if it's really that bad, why are there no changes? Why is it the same exact starting 11 that we started against Orlando? I mean, you could make the argument, well, we've got the momentum with this team. They played well together last game. Let's keep it going. But you look at what happened at the end of the game, and that's exactly what's going through my mind again, is why did we start that same 11? Because they're not going to be able to last the full game. And sure enough, it showed. The last 20 minutes of the game, we looked downright awful because they were so drained and dead, and it was obvious. I mean, when your captain, Michael Parkhurst, looks like one of the worst players on the field, that's when you know you played him too long. That's when you know it was a mistake to do 90 and almost 90. So, I mean, I'm not saying, oh yeah, take out your best players, but at the same time, you do need to bring in a few other players that didn't play on the weekend that might be able to help us tonight. And he didn't. He waited forever to make a change. The first one took forever, and it came because Tito got hurt taking a shot. He cramped up. That's the first change he made, and then he doesn't make one until late into the 80th, what is it, the 80th minute, I think? I'm pretty sure it was already the 80th minute before he made the second one, and by that point, I mean, they were already starting to come at us. Our legs were looking dead. The passes were looking poor, and it didn't really feel like we had much grip in the game. And then you make a defensive switch and switch over to a back three, and then defensive mistake, they get a goal. And at that point, I knew the third one was coming for them because they had all the momentum. And it was just waiting for that third goal to go in. And it was unlucky that it went in the way it did. But I think part of that is just down to the fact that they were dead. Watching everybody stand and looking at the ball is just like, that's kind of a sign that you needed to make some more changes in this game. You needed to change something else, and he didn't. And it cost us. So, honestly, I'm going to find it really hard to talk about individuals tonight because, like I said about the Portland game, everybody had their moments of they did something good, and then they had their moments of they did something very bad. So we'll start with Guzan. You know, he had some good moments. He had a couple good saves, a couple good takes off of corners, and then he had that second goal. I mean, don't get me wrong. I realize, okay, it's a fairly close shot, but at the same time, as a professional keeper, you should be saving that shot. Gonzalez Perez has done well to come back across and cut off the far side of the goal, which means all he has is your near post, and you still let it go in. There's a problem there. So, I don't know, it's just very odd to see him make a mistake like that. On the free kick itself, the first one, I personally think the referee made a mistake. Yeah, I'm definitely tired, in case you couldn't tell. The referee made a mistake on the free kick, and honestly, there were several decisions that went against us, and I think part of that came down to Lamont in the first 5 minutes, just got up in his face and was yelling at him, and I think the referee's like, oh no, I made him mad, oh gosh, well now I need to really make it up to him, and just started handing him out free kicks out of absolutely nothing, and that's what led to the first free kick that led to the goal. And on the goal, it's kind of hard to tell exactly what happened there. You know, it looked like it was a pretty good free kick, but they never really showed it from an angle to see, did it go up and over the wall? Did it go around it? Did somebody break off? They never really showed a good angle to show us, could Guzan have gotten there or not? So basically what I'm trying to say in all of this is he definitely made a mistake on the second one. The third one, I mean, not much he can do when it's right there. You know, he made himself big and he nearly got a touch to get it away. But, I mean, if he'd made that save, it would have been pure luck. And so the fact that he didn't was just unlucky. But then the first goal is the one where I'm kind of indecisive on, was it his fault? Was it somebody in the wall's fault? I couldn't tell because they never showed us a good camera angle of it. So, into the defense, Escobar on the right side had good and bad moments. I'm going to not say that because everybody did. I would say he had more bad moments than good, though. And the reason I say that is because defensively, there are moments where you see him just get so dragged up the field that he's not back helping defensively. And that's a problem. And the thing that really bugs me about this is that we switched back to this 4-2-3-1 that makes us look very, very easy to break down on defense. And the main reason for that is because our fullbacks get up the field and they do that normally in the 3-2 whatever, that we have with the 3 in the back and the 2 wing backs. Normally they get up and down the line fine, and I have no problem with that. But when you go to the back 4 and you still have your fullbacks doing the up and down stuff, it leaves only 2 in the back. And it makes us look so much more weak defensively. And Escobar's not tracking back, and Ambrose isn't tracking back, and they're just kind of jogging back as they're breaking out on us. And all that's left is you got Michael Parkhurst, you got Leandro Gonzalez Perez, and you got Jeff Larentowicz as the 3 that are trying to stop them. Instead of having Michael Parkhurst, Perez, sometimes Escobar, sometimes McCann, and Larentowicz, you have 4 back there now because Larentowicz is always going to step back from the midfield no matter what. But because now you only have 2 back there, it just leaves us so much more open. And the fullbacks not getting back to defend is a big problem that I have. And it's something that isn't being solved. It's something that still continues to happen. And if Escobar was flying down the line and giving us a lot of good stuff up in the attacking third, I'd have no problem. But he's not. And I'm going to say the same thing about Ambrose. I mean, honestly, they can really be compared as similar styles in this one. The only thing I would say that Escobar has over Ambrose is when he defends, he does defend better than Ambrose does. I think Ambrose has too many moments where he's not strong enough. He kind of gets bodied off the ball or he gets too easily just run by. Where Escobar is a bit more of a battler, very scrappy defender, so he can sort of get himself in there. But both of them just have that issue of they have nothing going forward in the attack, and then they don't really work back defensively well enough, and it leaves us so exposed that anytime we lose the ball in the attacking third, it's always a worry of what's going to happen. With that being said, you look at the back 2 of Parkhurst and Perez, and both of them not poor performances overall. I'd say both of them had some more good moments than they did bad moments. But the problem I have with this is the fact that you're leaving these 2 so exposed in the back because now it's pretty much just those 2 on their side of the field. And there's nobody in the middle. Sometimes Jeff will step back, but for the most part, it's Michael one side, Perez the other. And it looks just so spread out. And on the attack, that's fine. You want them to be spread out. You want them to have space to move the ball. On defense, you don't want them to be spread out, obviously. And it just happens too many times where they're so far apart and there's just this guy in the middle and he's got all this space to run and now they're tracking back. And against Dallas, it was killing us. The main thing is because they had so much speed up top. And as we know, Michael, not the fastest player. Perez, not the fastest player. And they looked like they were struggling for the most part of the game. And that's a big problem. And a lot of that is down to the formation. And I don't know why he keeps going to now that he's got an injury to Nagby, now the formation switch feels a little bit more like, okay, we've got to do this to sort of keep our, I guess, based on the players we have, we can't really go with the three in the back. But I still feel like, why not find a formation that helps our defense a little bit more? Maybe go with three in the midfield instead of two. So that way, Lorenowitz can drop back as almost like a third defender sometimes, and then you still got two people in there. Now, who's going to be that other midfielder? Well, Remedy? I don't know how to say his name. He just came in. Gressel's done okay in the midfield, so why not have those two in there with Lorenowitz? And then you've got, the same sort of front line. Now, who do you take out? Well, that's a different matter that I'll talk about in just a second. But while we're on the topic of midfielders, both Jeff and Julian today, I thought probably our best two players on the field, just because in the midfield, I think that was our best line. And I don't really think that was down to us. I don't think that we were doing anything special. I don't think either of them were doing anything special. I just think the way Dallas plays, they've got that back four which stays very compact and very solid. They hardly get separated. They tend to stay very close together. And they've got that front two and sometimes three that just has so much speed and press you hard that you don't really notice that their midfield is completely wide open. And so that is why I think Lorenowitz and Gressel both had just so much time to play and turn and find passes. And even when they were pressuring, putting pressure and defending in the midfield, I just thought they had so much time to close them down because their midfield really isn't strong for Dallas. So, but I think both of them did have their weaknesses today. I think for Jeff, the speed whenever they were starting to break out definitely wasn't there for him. He's a player who's very good at reading the game and can step in, but I do think the one issue he has is whenever there's a lot of speed, he has difficulty keeping up with that. And so today it felt like he never really had a chance to step in and win the ball because they were already past him. And for Gressel, his problem has always been the same thing. It's that languid touch, the lazy touch that he has, because he feels like, oh, I've got so much time, and then pressure, and he's about to lose it. But both of them definitely worked hard, and the hard work was there to see. It was obvious. So I will say they did enough for me today to say they played well. Into the three behind Martinez, Barco, Almiron, Tito. All three of them had some good moments on the attack, but I think the biggest problem they had today was the lack of movement. It feels like we've kind of gotten into this little bit of a rut where somebody's on the ball, we're waiting for them to play so then they can move, instead of moving so then they can play. And I think that's when we really start to look very stale. I think it happened against Portland. It happened against, who was the other team? I think it was NYC. No, New York Red Bulls that came in. There are just moments in the game where it feels like we get into just this kind of over-complacency. And it's just like, oh, we've got so much talent. Come on, play me the ball. Just play me the ball. I'm going to do something with it. But little do we know, there's a guy behind me. There's a guy right here about to step in and win it. There's a guy over here. And so I'm standing waiting for the ball as my teammate is on the ball, not having any options because he sees the players around me and isn't going to pass it to me because I'm not doing anything to try to receive it. And that's our biggest problem when we get into the attack, is that lack of movement, the desire of play it to my feet instead of let me get into space so you can play it to my feet. And it kills us so many times. And today, when they started packing it in especially, we just could not find space to pass the ball because nobody's trying to create that space. And it kills us every time. But as far as individual performances, Barco, I think his biggest problem is just he thinks he's the next Messi, I think. And And, there are times when dribbling he does very well, but then there are times when he gets closed down by three people and he still thinks he can do it, and he can't because he's not strong enough to hold on to it. So he just gets bodied off the ball easily, and it costs us sometimes because they poke it off of him, and now they're coming back at us with speed because he was going with speed. Miguel, great player, fantastic vision, fantastic passing, but there are times when he needs to realize that he is still human. He can still make mistakes because there are so many moments where it feels like he is looking for this great pass or this fantastic shot, and it doesn't come off because he makes mistakes too. And don't get me wrong, I feel like I don't think he's arrogant. I don't think he thinks highly of himself. I honestly think he's been kind of on a little bit of a confidence drop over the past few games, and I'm glad he scored 2 against Orlando because we need him to get his confidence up. But then there are moments where it feels like he thinks he can do a little bit more when we need him to just release and find a pass or, get rid of it, find maybe a drop to get the pressure off of him for a second so that draws them out and now opens up a bit more space instead of trying to find that attacking pass, which either goes out of bounds for a goal kick or they do connect the pass and then all the defenders are back. And there's so many times where I just feel like it needs to be one more, all right, let's get it out, let's draw them out, and then try to get it back in. But that attacking mindset, that mindset of, oh, I can find that pass, I can get him through, and then it's a giveaway, and now they're back at us. Sometimes that's his biggest problem. And then for Tito, he's still returning from injury. I thought he looked okay against Orlando, not one of his best games. Tonight, same thing, not really one of his best games. He had a few moments here and there where he looked pretty good. Hopefully, whatever he came off with was just a cramp. I think that's what it was. That's kind of what it looked like. But we just need him to be the same old Tito that we know. Hardworking, fast pace, pretty much how he set up the first goal. That's the type of stuff that we need to see from him more often in the game because it only happens like maybe 4 or 5 times in the game right now. And I remember there were times last season where it just felt like he was tearing a team up every 5 minutes because he had that desire to get on the ball and run at their defense and cause them problems. It's not happening as often this year as it was last year. And so I want him to get back into that rhythm. And as far as Joseph is concerned up top, just too many moments of turning off. It's that same old attitude of he gets frustrated, turned off. He's not involved anymore. He's throwing his hands up in the air. He's getting frustrated. He's yelling at people. I get frustrated with him because we need him to do something. We need him to provide options or provide us help, provide movement so the defenders have to track him. His movement on the second goal was fantastic. His run into the box on the first goal, fantastic. His runs against Orlando were fantastic. But those are moments. Throughout most of the game, when you watch him, it's like he's just there. Until that moment happens, until somebody sends him the perfect ball, he's not involved. And we need him to get more involved because we need him to do what he does best, which is score goals. Get into open spaces, challenge defenders, cause them problems because that's the type of striker he is, or he can be, when he's not having his little hissy fits because his attitude is just dropped. So it's kind of a balancing act with him. He's got to find a way to keep himself calm and get into the game more instead of waiting for somebody to get him in the game by sending him a great cross or delivering a great pass to him. So anyway, that's all for the people on the field. As far as the subs are concerned, like I said, I think they came in too late. Kratz has started to drop off a little bit over the past few games, and part of it I think is down to age, but another part of it I just think is he's not really agile as a midfielder. And in this league, there are moments where you can just see the speed of the play. It really hurts players that aren't able to keep up with the pace or can't, battle into the pace. Where you look at Michael and Jeff, both of them, they're not very fast, but they're very strong and they're smart. So they read the game, they can put themselves in a position to where, okay, you're faster than me, but I'm stronger and smarter. With Kratz, it doesn't feel like he's stronger or smarter. Sometimes it feels like he's just kind of chasing the game a little bit. So I do still appreciate the hard work he puts in, but I do think there are times where you can definitely tell he's not quite up to the pace of the game, and it's starting to hurt us in the midfield. And So I'm hoping that Remedy can come in and be a good, solid midfielder that can distribute, that can work hard defensively, because we need that right now. Because, I mean, while Gressel's done okay, he's still not quite what we need. And honestly, I think that he's better off out wide than he is in the midfield. So I think we're actually hindering him a bit by putting him in the midfield. So I'd like to get in a midfielder that can do that job well enough to where we can go back to what we had, let Gressel be that wide player, get back to the formation that helps us defensively, and then go from there, and be a better team for it. And then the other two subs that came on, Robinson comes in. It's very hard being a defender going into a game, especially that late whenever they're starting to come back at us with a bunch of pace and energy and fire and desire to get back into the game. And yeah, made a mistake because of it. And it's frustrating for him, I'm sure, because it's difficult to come into a game like that. And then on top of that, you make a mistake that leads to a goal. I'm sure he's probably frustrated with himself. And I'm sure also the confidence is probably pretty low after that too. So I hate it for him that he had to get thrown into that situation. But I think I think that's an issue with Tata just not really making his subs early enough. Not letting him get integrated into the game before it gets difficult. And then Williams comes on as kind of a last-ditch effort, throwing a striker after you go a goal down, trying to get a late one to equalize. And at that point, it was pretty much back to what we saw in the first half from Dallas, which is just packing it in, waiting for them to, waiting for us to try to break them down. And we did fashion a couple chances, but they never really looked like clear-cut chances, which is unfortunate. But overall, is it the end of the world? No, but now we're on the chase, which is not good, because everybody was chasing us. We've dropped points, and this is a team that technically is ahead of us when you look at the games at hand. There are two. I think Dallas was one that was even with us. Red Bulls and I think one other team were ahead of us if you gave them 3 points for all of their games at hand. So this was a game that we needed to win to put ourselves back in the driver's seat. And instead we drop we drop all 3 points. We give them 3 points, which means now they're ahead of us even further. And yeah, it's frustrating because this was a chance to take something away from a team that's chasing us, and instead we let them have the momentum to get ahead of us, and now we are chasing them, and it's never a good position to be in, to have to chase another team in the league. But with that being said, I still think there are enough things to look at in this game, because we saw in the weekend what we can do whenever we're playing at the top of our game, whenever we are full momentum, going at a team, taking it to them because we are feeling confident and we're moving the ball around with so much pace. And then we come into tonight, it's difficult, they're sitting in more, it's hotter, it's a lot more difficult environment, then we have to try to grind out a result. We did well to get back into it, we did well to get ahead, and then we dropped off again at the end of the game. And that's where I think we've got to start looking at, okay, so we need more depth. Because we take away people from our first team, or we let our first team get tired, this is what happens. We lose, we were ahead of goal, now we're behind a goal. So we need to try to find a way to solve those problems by giving our first team players more of a rest, which also means letting more of our second team in. And if they're able to, or if they're not able to do the job, well, that's a problem. So we either need to get better options in there, or we need to find a way to, I guess, integrate the players that can help us into the game a bit sooner, so we're not dying by the end of the game. But anyway, I hope I wasn't rambling too much there at the end. I feel like I might have been, because, like I said, tired. But anyway, that's it for this game, and hopefully I talked enough about the other games for you guys to be happy. I do apologize for not being able to review for so long, but hopefully I can get back into it soon. It's going to be a long process to get back into all of this, but whatever the case, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on this game in the past two? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all the good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Atlanta United reviews. I'll see you guys in the next game. Peace out.